For this colored pencil exercise, you need a box of colored pencils. Crayola is fine, but also make sure that you have a white colored pencil. So we're gonna get started, and these two, go ahead and set up your paper just like this. So there's two smaller boxes and then two bars. And then labeled, I have unburnished and burnished, and then the second part is a color gradation and an intensity gradation. So just get that set up on your paper. And we're gonna go ahead and start, and you can pause the video obviously whenever you need to. So I'm just going to start by filling in my first box, and this is going to be the unburnished. So if you remember, burnishing is flattening that tooth of the paper on your page so that you can't see that white speckly tooth of the paper. But this one, we're gonna do an unburnished version. So just start laying down, choose one color, it doesn't matter. Just start laying down your color. Kind of like how you would fill in a coloring book. And you're gonna do like a couple layers of this. You can maybe go from a different angle just to make sure you have good coverage. Staying inside the lines as best you can. Obviously, you can pause the video if you need to. So that's our unburnished version. Now we're going to go to the next one. You're gonna start it the same way though. So do a nice layer. Build that up, staying inside the lines, good craftsmanship, obviously. You don't want your strokes too far apart. But now that we have, a decent layer, I'm gonna start adding more and more pressure to this. So slowly building up pressure. And then now I'm going to put the most pressure that I can. And I'm going to start flattening that tooth so that we cannot see that speckled pieces or the speckled piece of the paper. So I don't know if you can see this, but you'll know it's burnished when it reflects the light. So when it's a little bit shiny and waxy like that, that's how you know that it's burnished. That's kind of the test for burnishing. So just burnish that entire box. I'm gonna move on just for the sake of time so that this isn't a super long video. We're going to do a color gradation. So a color gradation is when it changes from one color to the next. So I want you to choose at least, you need two colors. Choose two warm colors or two cool colors. So I'm going to use two warm colors, hot pink and red. And we're going to start this out. Choose whatever color you want to start with. But I am going to lay this down, and kind of like a gradation, you taper off as you go towards the center of this bar. So like that's my first layer. And then I'm gonna just go throughout and just continue adding layers. Each time getting a little bit heavier as I go. It's really important for you to do this initial light layer. You don't want to just go in full force burnishing. And you'll see why in just a little bit. Okay, so I have a nice layer down of my first color. Now I'm gonna go to my next color. I hope this is staying focused. My next color is red. Same exact thing. Except this red one is going to kind of overlap with the pink that's already there. So just going through. Adding those layers. Okay, so I have two pretty solid layers down of my colors. Now what you want to do is start burnishing, but we're not going to burnish to the center yet. So I'm going to burnish the edges, and remember, a gradation is a gradual change. So eventually we're not going to want to be able to see exactly where the pink turns into the red. So this is a pretty tedious process, but it looks really cool. So this part is burnished here, and I'm adding heavier pressure as I go out, but I'm still not quite burnishing yet out here. And I'll do that with the pink. If one of your colors is stronger than the other one, like my red is going to be pretty strong and it might overpower the pink if I use too much. So whatever color is stronger, try not to, you'll eventually burnish with the weaker color, if that makes sense, just so it doesn't overpower and cover up the weaker color. Okay, so heavier pressure towards the center, burnished at the edge, and I'm just going to go back and forth until I am able to burnish the center. Now, the reason we're not burnishing the center yet is because we want these to really blend together first. So get that layer of blended colors, and then when you burnish, when you add the pressure of burnishing, those colors that are already there, the pigment on the paper, they will blend together really nicely. So it'll be those two colors blended. So now I'm burnishing out a little bit farther, my red. And then switching to my pink. And I'm actually starting to burnish in the center with my pink. Because it's the weaker color, I'm not too worried about this overpowering the red. So now you can kind of see where it's starting to blend, and I'm going through and burnishing in the center with my red. So by this time, you should have enough pigment down so that when you are blending these two colors together, you have an even amount of both, so that when you burnish, it'll be a nice little mixture. Okay, so I would probably continue working on that, but you don't want to be able to tell exactly where it changes. It's going to be so gradual, and mine's not done, but when you're done, it should be so gradual that you can't pinpoint exactly where it changes. So you can continue working on the color gradation, but I'm going to show you the intensity gradation. The intensity gradation is a little bit easier. So I don't care what color you use. I might actually switch back to my cool color, but you just need one color, and you're going to start the same exact way. So get a nice layer down and then taper off as you move towards the center. So it'll look something like that. Okay, then I'm going to do a little bit of burnishing on the edges, but still as I move towards the center, I'm not burnishing yet. Slowly taper off towards the center. And then once you have a really good layer down, once you've done that a few times, I could probably keep going. This is where the white colored pencil comes into play. So your white colored pencil, this will need to be burnished, but we can't burnish with the color, otherwise it's not gonna look like a gradation. So you are actually, since you have a nice amount of pigment down, you're going to burnish with the white, and whatever pigment is on the page, it'll kind of ground it into the paper. So it'll still look like a gradual change. And I'm gonna burnish, not all the way to the end, but just far enough, maybe adding a light layer over here. Like I'm not burnishing right now over in this section. Just adding a nice light layer. Then I'm gonna go back to my blue color and bring that over. And I'm just gonna keep going back and forth until I have a nice intensity gradation. So intensity gradation again is one color and it just kind of slowly loses, I guess, intensity. So it's not quite as vivid and bright. And we are using the white colored pencil to achieve that. Okay, so all of my examples are kind of unfinished. You have more time. I just didn't want this to be a crazy long video. So go ahead and finish this, take a picture and turn it in on Google Classroom when you are finished.